The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 203.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Welcome back to the EL. Today we have Charles Archer, author of Everyone Paddles. But before we dive in, I wanted to, we're doing something a little bit new ever since really episode 200, and I wanted to keep you guys in tune. So in an effort to let you guys know what the authors are, or which authors are actually coming up next before the episode released, so you guys will know a little bit quicker, I started to share the day's interviews. So on the day that I do the interviews, I'm starting to share them on Twitter. So if you'd like first access to know who's next on the EL, you can follow me at Twitter at Wade D. Danielson. And in addition to connecting, just to know what authors are next, please message me. Let me know what authors you would like to hear from next. So without further ado, let's bring on Charles to talk about Everyone Paddles. Welcome, Charles, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Thank you for having me.
Before we take a deep dive into your book, Everyone Paddles, will you take just a moment to introduce yourself? Tell us just a little bit about you personally.
Charles Archer. I'm an attorney by license. I have a master's. I'm a writer, not just of leadership and management skills and that type of team building, but I also am an advocate for people with developmental disabilities. 20 years ago, I started a not-for-profit to pretty much help people with disabilities live productive and fantastic and fulfilling lives up until their ability. And over the last 20 years, we've been able to touch people throughout New York City and in New Jersey, as well as me personally have been able to reach out and touch other organizations and not-for-profits where they can pretty much create cultures that lead to productivity. Business culture is a significant issue for the delivery of services or the delivery of widgets. And I've been able to do this over the last couple of years, and it's actually been great.
That's excellent, Charles, and thank you for sharing that. What a fantastic cause. And now let's jump right into your book. Let's jump into Everyone Paddles, a leader's blueprint for creating a unified team.
If I could just interrupt you, it's definitely Everybody Paddles. I know everyone makes the difference between everyone and everybody. It's really become not just about one person, so it really becomes everybody in that whole synergy of togetherness. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No, I'm glad you did. And I also wanted you to clarify the date. The third edition actually is fairly new. It came out September 2014.
Yes,
is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yes, it is.
Okay, excellent. Okay, and Charles, we're going to move quickly here today, but our whole goal is to help the listener, the future reader, get a great idea of what your book is all about. So with that, we're going to ask a couple of different questions. So what was the inspiration behind Everyone Paddles?
As I mentioned to you, Everybody Paddles came out of just my ability working in business and all the things I've seen as an attorney, as an entrepreneur, as a community advocate, and as a leader. And the one thing that inspired me was that there were people who didn't want to add value at work. There were people who came to work, and because of whatever number of reasons, the culture or the environment became hostile or just became, debilitating, and it wasn't motivating. And I really was inspired to create something unique, something different based on teamwork and team building that really got people understanding every day at work, every day in life overall, but every day at work, you must add value. If you don't, you're not contributing. And that was really the inspiration around creating the book series, Everybody Paddles.
Excellent. So what would you say, this is such an important question to help differentiate a book in a world full of books that come out every single day. So what makes your book different from others regarding the same or similar topic?
There's a lot of books out there about leadership and team building. I think the one thing that makes it unique is that I'm a practitioner. I'm not writing a book based on theory. I'm writing a book based on theory and practice. And as a practitioner, there are a lot of people who write and discuss leadership, and it's appropriate. But when you've actually led a multi-million dollar company, or you've had over 500 or 600 employees, you kind of know leadership differently than someone who just talks about theory. The other important thing that I think makes this particular book unique is that the concept of rowing, the concept of whitewater rafting, the concept of canoeing, etc. When you put people into a whitewater raft, everyone must be in unison. Everyone must have the same objective. And in a whitewater raft, you go through calm waters, still waters, somewhat rough waters at times, and then you kind of get to the end of this whole kind of celebratory moment where everybody's celebrating because everybody contributed throughout that whitewater raft experience. And I think that concept helps people realize that when I go to work, I must paddle. When I'm with my family, or when I'm with my community, or when I'm with the people that I love and care about and I have this synergy with, I must paddle. I must contribute. And I think those two things are primarily what I believe make this book unique and different than what some other people are talking about.
Excellent. Charles, how did you write the book to be read? Is this a book that they can jump in and jump out based on the information they need at that moment? Or did you really design it to be read from front to back?
It's really all unique to the person. I think that, for me, I love to read books that give me something in the moment that I can use 5 minutes from now. There are a lot of books where I don't want to get to the end of the book in order to understand what I should have done at work tomorrow. So it's a 6-principle book. There's 6 chapters in the book, and each chapter could be read individually, or it could be read collectively, or it can be read at different moments when you need something that gets you through an experience at work.
So, Charles, this is my favorite part of the interview. This is where I like to hand over the mic to you for the next, 5 to 8 minutes. And the whole purpose of this is to allow that future reader to get a great run through, a great idea of what they're going to get by purchasing and reading your book. So will you take the next couple of minutes and explain what we could get out of reading your book?
Out of reading the Everybody Paddles, a leader's blueprint for creating a unified team, the reader will get a practical experience about how leadership works, and how there are different and unique experiences, and how these 6 principles can allow a manager, middle manager, a CEO, even a someone who's interested in management to start to think about the experience of leadership. Leadership is about followership, and without followership, there are no leaders. And this kind of creates the template for creating that type of relationship, the leader-follower relationship. So the book starts out with a great foreword by a very good business leader and friend, Peter Burish. And what we've done throughout this particular book is, after each chapter, after each principle, you'll get an experience from another business leader about that particular principle, and how in dealing with a principle, they've been able to create their own success. So as I said, it's 6 principles. Principle 1 is unity stabilizes the boat. It really discusses about what separates us, what brings us together. And basically, those are the things to acknowledge. When you think about stabilizing anything, it's about the acknowledgement of what works and what doesn't work. And a lot of time in business, we're a little afraid to discuss the things that cause us to be uncomfortable. But that is really a part of stabilization, is understanding what doesn't work in your business. Principle 2 is the purpose provides propulsion. It's about the vision and the mission of whatever your business is about. For Evelyn Douglas Center for Serving People in Need, our business and our mission is to enhance the quality of life of people. How do we do that is a different question, but that's our mission and that's our purpose. And when your business is able to understand, or the people connected to your business understands your purpose, then you're able to propel. Principle 3, the captain sets the course and the whole crew paddles. There are a lot of things I love about this book, and this is one of the principles I do concentrate on the most, is that everyone wants to be in leadership. However, there's only a select few in that club. And if you're not a member of that club, you are a contributor, you should be paddling. And a lot of time when I think about the generational differences that I face within my two businesses as well as other people face, it really becomes about, you cannot lead on day one. You can't really lead on day 30. You have to grow into leadership. You have to grow into those experiences. And a lot of people who come in at an entry level position don't want to take the time to grow into it. But when you understand that before you become a leader, you have to be an excellent follower, I think that the principle of the captain steering the course and the crew paddling is very appropriate. We talk about principle 4, which has to do with communication clearly to stay on course. I don't think you can get enough about what we communicate as leaders and what people communicate as followers, and being aware of the verbal and the nonverbal, crafting your words appropriately, and understanding the culture that you create is created through your communication skills is really discussed in principle 4. Principle 5, problem solving, course correction. In in my organization, we have a simple rule. You could get 60 seconds to tell me about the problem, but you can take an hour to discuss the solution. And I think when you understand it's about course correction, you will not spend a significant amount of time discussing the problems. They're very easy to identify, but the solution is where you should be spending most of your time. And then there's principle 6. Every crew member matters. And, the whole concept throughout our culture is that there are people who matter and there are people that don't matter. People who have significance and people who are insignificant in different ways. And throughout this book and throughout everything that I do for not-for-profit and for-profit companies is creating a culture where it's understood everybody matters. And you have to find a way as a leader to make sure that people understand that. And matter doesn't mean I do what you think I should do. Matter means I hear you, I acknowledge you, I see you. Your opinion is valuable. And I think that when you read the whole book and you look at the contributing authors and you really look at the whole messaging that we've done around it, it really does create a message for people to understand that everybody is valuable. Everybody contributes. Everybody matters. Everybody must paddle.
So, Charles, you just did a great job of breaking down your book for us, really taking us through exactly what we can get out of your book. And now we're going to ask you to take it a step further. Sometimes I feel like this question's mean, but because you just did such a great job. But if the reader can only take away one concept, principle, or action item out of your entire book, everything you just took the time to discuss with us, what would you personally want that to be?
I would want them to go to work and understand the whole principle that everybody matters, and that I mean it's simple, it's very understandable for people, but regardless of your position in the organization, there's value that you add to the success of that business. And if anyone can walk away and say, I've read this book and I now know that I have to be different at work. I know that I should expect something different from the people that are my leaders and the people that I work along with, my colleagues. Everybody matters. And I think that that's the one thing I want people to realize is that regardless of if you're the receptionist, the janitor, the CEO, or the department head, or you run a division within the business, the people around you are equally contributing to that success. None of us do this thing called leadership alone. And that's what I would want people to get out the book.
Excellent. Charles, the next question's a little bit odd and I think a little bit different, but I love asking it because it gives the author somewhat of a chance to maybe brag on themselves. So do you have a favorite quote from your book, something that you wrote that you think would resonate with people? And will you take a second to explain what that quote means?
In the preface of the book, it says, I decided to find books that provided realistic guidelines for someone like me, or for that matter, any executive charged with providing leadership. And what that particular quote in the book means to me is this: that regardless of where you are, and I think, you've done an excellent job, Wade, with what this podcast is about, is the investment in ourselves and the time to seek out to become better, to enhance our lives and the lives of people around us is what that means to me. So when I look for things to enhance my ability, it is personal, but however, it equally contributes to everything else that I do. So, as a practicing attorney, I've had the opportunity to work with people in the district attorney's office, in private practice, and other different avenues. But I had to also invest in the learning to become a better attorney, not just for my clients, but for the people that I represent. When I was teaching, for example, at Baruch College or at St. Francis, et cetera, I've had the opportunity to enhance my own skills in getting a master so that way I become a better teacher, a better administrator with educating the next generation of leaders. And when I look at what I'm currently doing, not just within, the practice of consulting and speaking or in my not-for-profit, I've had the opportunity to enhance my skills to work on becoming to getting a PhD in public policy, because writing policy changes lives. And yet it's personal enhancement. What I decide to do with it is my contribution. And I think a lot of times, we can talk about this for hours, but there are a lot of times when people want a level of success, but hasn't personally invested in themselves. And as a leader, as a follower, no one should ever invest in you more than you. And that's what this particular quote means to me.
That's phenomenal and extremely, extremely powerful. So we're going to put that at the show notes, in the show notes at the elpodcast.com, so people can go back and reflect on that further. So Charles, we've asked you all the questions that we wanted to about your book. Now we're asking you for a book recommendation, and not just any, we're asking for the book. So if there's only one book you could recommend based on the way that it's impacted your life, created a very large paradigm or lifestyle shift for you, and this does not have to be on business, I do want to preface that, but what book would you suggest?
I'm thinking of the author's name and it's slipping me, but the book title was called The Shack. And it is a spiritual experience going through this process of the book and reading The Shack. It really has significantly changed my life on how I should think about my purpose, how I should think about my life now, and how I should think about my life at the end of it. And if you give me a second, but I'm sure your readers or your listeners can find it, and I'm sure you would do a fantastic job mentioning it. But it is called The Shack, and the author's name
William
slips me
Paul
at this
Young?
moment. Absolutely, that's the name.
Okay, excellent. Yeah,
William Paul Young. It's an excellent book, and they have. I do know that there is another edition of the book that I'm in the process of purchasing to read as well. But that book changed my life, and I highly recommend it for anybody who is looking to not just enhance your personal life, but it does contribute to your professional life as well.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that recommendation. We haven't had that one yet. I don't usually, put a whole lot into the reviews on Amazon, but it looks like there's almost 9,000 reviews of The Shack on Amazon. So, fairly popular book.
I think what happens is that we assume that the only way to excel in business is to read business books. But I give you 1,000 business books that I have that have helped me. The Everybody Paddles book has helped me as much as I have written it. I occasionally will go back to it just to refresh myself on something that I might have not read a couple of weeks ago. But I think the experience of reading and reading books outside of business and outside of your particular area in business really does help.
I agree with you. I think that business books can help us move forward and kind of give us the black and white, the X's and the O's. But sometimes the intangible is the heartstrings or the passion that goes behind it. A lot of those come from books that don't have to do anything with business. A very famous book, and some people might say that it's a business book, but The Alchemist. That's a heartstring type of book. I wouldn't consider that. I mean, you look at that compared to a Think and Grow Rich or a How to Win Friends and Influence People. Some of those are more manuals on how to succeed, and The Alchemist is more of a passion and heartstrings. But nonetheless, very important.
But you know something? The one thing is that even with The Alchemist and The Shack, the relationship with people comes out in both of these books. So you might think about Think and Grow Rich, or you might think about The Secret, or all of those books. What those books really do talk about, even the underlining of all of the books, is the relationship with people. And The Alchemist went through relationships throughout that entire experience that are equally as valuable when you think about business. So it's interesting that you brought up that particular book, but you can find these parallels on what can help you build relationships, which is business, and what helped you build relationships in your personal life as well.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Thanks again for that recommendation. That's fantastic. And Charles, this next question, or really we're departing, but I want to let you know that this is a plug away zone, not a plug free zone. So if you have something that's valuable for our listener, definitely bring it up here. But basically, we're just asking, can you recommend the best way for our listeners to not only get more information on you, but also get more information on your book, Everyone Paddles?
Everybodypaddles.com is probably the best way to get in contact with us and to get in contact and see what we are doing. The one thing that we have been doing, and it has been probably very rewarding for me and my current businesses, is having the ability to work with not-for-profits and for-profit companies throughout the country. I am on my way tomorrow to Portland, Maine, to work with a plastic surgeon in his business. I've had the opportunity to work with a developer on how he is developing residential buildings throughout Atlanta, Georgia. In Brooklyn, we're working with a not-for-profit who is literally providing meals to seniors, and another company who's dealing with child daycare and things like that. So, this has really become an initiative and a movement of sorts, which allows us to go into environments and go into places and just change the culture. Not really to devalue what currently is there, but look at how you can create a productive environment that people understand. It's not everything it should be at every moment, but this is where I work, and this is where I spend time, and these are the people that I spend time with, and let's create something magnificent. The other thing that we are equally on is all social media. We have some new things that we are about to launch in the next week or so, which are going to really be attractive to a younger generation. When we think about what draws a young person into anything, it's how you communicate with them. And we are definitely creating these type of avenues because, I'm giving a commencement address in June of this year. And in giving that address, I have the opportunity to shape the minds of college graduates before they go to work. So if I understood coming out of college that, yes, I'm going to work for IBM, or I'm going to work for Zappos, so I'm going to work for, Apple, what happens is that I now know I have to contribute. I can't go in and change everything on day one, or what I think change on day one. I need to be a contributing member of that organization or company culture. So those are the ways to get in contact with us. I'm really excited about what this book has been doing. It's available, obviously, on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and in other outlets, tattered cover, etc. And you could also purchase the book from our website, Everybody Paddles.
Perfect. Charles, you did fantastic. Thank you so much for your time today and sharing your book with us.
Thank you so much, Wade. I look forward to talking to you again soon. And, I would love to be able to just communicate with you on a lot of different things. If you're ever in the New York area or I'm ever in your area, I would love to sit down face to face and just, talk shop.
Thanks again for listening in today. If you'd like more information on Charles or his book, Everyone Paddles, check out the show notes at the elpodcast.com. And again, to connect with me, let me know what authors you'd like to hear from and know earlier what authors are coming up next. Connect with me on Twitter, Wade D. Danielson.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.